And I'm just reading through your notes here. Okay.
Yeah, as I say, it's a bit of a rambling stream of consciousness.
These are all easily solved. It's all of these are easily solved. All of this, that's easily solved. That's just you wrestling with it and figuring out what that looks like. I think we can go into a little bit of detail with this.
Yeah, so in the last hour, I just watched Brother Spirit's video, and some of these things around Project Zettelkasten and things like that, they've evolved, not been answered, but my thoughts have evolved, if you like.
How does a Rome-based Zettelkasten interface with the rest of our graphs? You know, I honestly haven't seen a successful Rome graph that's easily taught to others anywhere else. And that concerns me, because if you can't teach what you're doing, then, you know, like, how effective is that?
Yeah.
Because if I can't speak your language, then everyone's going to speak completely different dialects. And
I think there's something quite, so the ones I've seen people try to teach, there's been something quite outside in, top down about it, right? Like, oh, frame everything like this, put everything under this tag. And I sort of, like, until recently have been blindly following quite a few of them, much like back in the day. I was like, oh, I better do GTD to get things done and what have you. And just like a lot of it comes back to that, finding a system that works for you. And that's what appeals to me about sort of the stuff you've been teaching, the stuff Sonke's been teaching in the book. It's more about finding a form that works and evolves from sort of very nubs of information.
Let me just, for people watching, I just want to highlight something. Does everyone see that? Does everyone see that? This is what we're gonna do.
Shit.
No, yeah, I know. I mean, listen, you wrote it, you sent it. Now I've got to quiz you.
Just bear in mind, I capitalized think. So
good. If you force people to have to articulate what they mean, it expands, like it crystallizes and solidifies things, right? So this is what I'd like to ask you. I'm going to start from the very beginning here, right? Why is it that I don't recommend capturing a whole paragraph or a whole chapter compared to capturing just a sentence?
I don't know if you said it explicitly, but my feeling is the more information you try and capture, the more dilute the fleeting thoughts you're going to be creating around it. Like, well, and this is through my experience of sort of going through these now 41 days of your book club. There's something about that fleeting thought that I'm finding the smaller the initial fleeting thought I capture, the deeper I kind of go, the more branches that come out of it. Do you know? I think you know what I'm saying. Like, I
want you to say it though. I want you to have to articulate this, because I think you understand it all too.
Yeah.
But keep going on that. What I heard you say was that if you're more specific on your capture from paragraph, chapter to more maybe a sentence or a phrase of a sentence, the deeper you're able to go. Because why?
So it's it's, for one, you've focused your attention. I think there's also something there about the context in which that permanent note is eventually going to live. Like by capturing a small amount of what was said in the original passage, you can better sort of really pull out the density of what was in that passage and sort of summarize it in a permanent, in a fleeting note, in a literature note, and finally in a permanent note. And there's something there to the recall part of it as well. You know, having that density of information, having the thing that really hits you from that original passage rather than the full passage itself. Like, I'm finding when I do the literature notes, sometimes I do veer slightly north or south of that original, what I've actually highlighted, but the fleeting note always starts from what I've got in yellow there.
Yeah. And then what's the difference between a fleeting note and a literature note?
Fleeting notes are essentially my thoughts. That it's the neurons bouncing off of each other, the insights, sort of like a lot of what's coming out of those fleeting notes doesn't necessarily relate directly to what's in the literature note itself. Whereas the literature note, it's kind of what you're doing to me here. It's making you elaborate and understand exactly what the original author or the original sayer of whatever you're capturing was trying to convey. And it's like making sure that you, like, I really loved when we were studying this part of things, the thing about being able to empathize with the person, understand where they're coming from, sort of all the way down to the image task and being able to pull out the thumbnail. I really like that, and I think that
probably
was
the only one that liked that exercise, by the way.
I didn't like the doing it. Like I did it over 3 sessions, and yeah, it was tough. But I really liked the point that you were smashing home, if you like. I think there's something to it. So yeah, they're both there for they're like interleaved processes. They sort of really help each other, right?
So what I heard you say is that the difference between fleeting notes and literature notes is that the information that comes from the abstraction process of these fleeting notes allows us to meet the author with due respect, because now we're coming from a place where the amount of work that we've put into figuring out what resonated with us allows us to allow the author in a very respectful way. So we're able to meet the author and get the most out of the author, yep, in essence. So why is it that you can place a permanent note, a crystallized permanent note anywhere? Like, I'm not talking about the first permanent note, right? But why is it that from the information from the fleeting notes and the literature notes and the reference notes, why are you able to place the permanent note anywhere in the Zettelkasten?
Anywhere in the Zettelkasten. Sometimes I don't have an obvious place for it. For me, I don't know about that question, because part of where I place it isn't necessarily from the literature note and the fleeting note. Like the Zettelkasten is, or the permanent notes are part of generating that thing in the first place. I think there's a little bit of a chicken and an egg thing sometimes to that as well. That I think I touched upon it in one of the questions, in that I don't always. There's a thing in my head where I might be wanting to progress one of the conversations in my Zettelkasten, and like maybe I have some fleeting notes done, but maybe there's a task to pick which one I've captured to go into that. And I was wondering, is that okay? Does it always have to be first in, first out, or can there be more of a what's the word? Organic conversation, if you like. Yeah, I did. So to answer your question, I don't know the exact answer, because I don't know if I agree with the premise, or I recognize the premise, if that makes any sense.
You know, you answered the question, but you started it with I don't know. But I was like, well, you just answered the question. It's all of it. It could literally be any of it. It could be none of it. And therein lies the difficulty of attempting to teach this. What I heard you say is that you don't know if it's going to be a fleeting note that informs you of which conversation it's going to go into. You don't know if it's going to be a literature note abstraction that's going to lead you to which conversation you want to add it to. You don't know if all of that is foregone and all of that was just work in order for you to have ideas in the moment to go, I think I want to continue this conversation. And because it can be all three of these, or even a fourth or a fifth or a sixth option, that's why it's an emergent organic process. And it could be the chicken, it could be the egg.
Yeah.
It could be the fleeting note, it could be the literature note. It could be just an idea that you have as you're going through the process and looking at your other notes.
Yeah. That's kind of my instinct. It's just it's really hard to know.
That's what you said, by the way. I just repeated what you said.
Yeah.
Okay, here's the next question. You're crushing it. You're 3 for 3 right now. Let's go a little bit harder. Being reminded of the physical limitations that an analog slip box has, which you're quite familiar with. What is the importance of the granularity of the index being at the block level?
The granularity of the index being at the block level. I might find it hard to answer this.
Ladies and gentlemen, do you see him still answering it though? That's part of the process. Even though you don't know it yet, you just throw yourself into the water. Please.
So to answer it, I think what I'd sort of go back to is, what does the digital equivalent give us? Like what does it give us that Lumen didn't have access to? And I remember you going through some of the original conversations around sort of Zettelkasten and is it the Folden Zettel?
Folden Zettel, the nested sequence.
That's it. So I'd go back to that, and sort of one of the limitations is that's with, unless you go into your own personal full-on Dewey Decimal system or something like that, that's kind of the limitation of what you had. Whereas when I look at sort of the system you've taught to us, like with the related notes, and being able to sort of cross-reference those small blocks and sort of create, rather than this linear system, this web of stuff, which is there in the original sort of analog one, but it feels like you likely have to. I've never kept an analog Zettel, so I don't know for sure, but it feels like the work to generate that web of conversation would be a lot more than it is right now, where at the time we create a permanent note, we go, okay, related note, and sort of bring those in. So for me, that's the importance of that block level, is being able to sort of relate those to each other and sort of be able to create this organic system. I'm not sure if I'm enunciating this very well, but that's how I would try and give an answer to that. I'm not sure if it's the answer to that though. It's
why aren't you sure yet?
I think part of it is I don't have enough experience on the other side of things. And in fact, on either side.
What do you mean other side? What do you mean other side, by the way?
So I was referring to like any sort of Zettelkasten, but like I don't have enough experience really to see. There's that thing about generating the output from this and really leaning on those, all of the different routes through the Zettelkasten, if you like, being able to, you know, like go from this tag to this tag to this tag to this tag, or from tag 1 to tag 3 to tag, you know, there's lots of routes through the system, and I'm guessing until I've walked that walk a bit, I'm not really going to be able to give enough of a good answer. However, to go back to the block level thing, I think there's something real to having really small, movable, referenceable chunks just on its own. Like all of the system for me comes back to something really small, but movable, and that's where the discovering form and patterns from small things comes from, right? And that's kind of the point of this thing, the inside out part of it. Anyway, sorry, I'm rambling.
How many permanent notes do you have right now in your own personal Zettelkasten?
I have it
full
here.
Permanent notes.
Full permanent notes. 2, 4, 8, I think. So not a huge amount.
This is why he wasn't able to answer that last question fully, because he hasn't gotten to that point.
Yeah, that was what I figured. That is what I figured. Like I've seen it from the side of our shared graph.
Yeah.
But I'm not using that shared graph at the minute. I've only merely contributed to it, right?
But I can tell you everything what it feels like to have a brand new baby in your arms. But you're not going to understand what it feels like until it's yours.
Yep.
But I can tell you everything about it. But it's not going to make sense and click until it's yours. And that's critical mass. You know, that's trust, 100% trust in the system. And I really wanted to do that with you, Simon, because I really wanted other people to see that, you know, the answers, you know, and to show them how far they've come as well. Because if I asked them these same questions, they would be able to elaborate on that and articulate that just as well. And the points where it started breaking down was because that's exactly where you need to be. But you're on the frontier of figuring that out. And I haven't made a daily video since day 28. So that means you've been figuring it out, which is what I've been saying from the beginning. I can't solve these problems. You have to. You have to. And I just, it's so good. And so just to sort of switch gears, now just to focus on what you're dealing with, right? Can we go ahead and take a look at your personal graph?
Yeah.
I kind of want to take a look and do some chiropractic work.
If you've seen any of the shared graph, a lot of it's going to seem familiar because it's all from the same source material. Share screen. Oh, can you see that? Okay.
Yes, it's perfect.
I'm just experimenting with the new browser, so if it looks all overly clean,
let's go ahead and click on the permanent note for isolation. By writing something down, we're able to isolate it.
Yep.
Perfect. And okay, it's perfect. So you have two locations of the link references. You have the daily notes page of where it was built, and then the permanent notes in the actual branch. Can you go ahead and expand the literature notes and the fleeting notes for me?
Yeah. I've done this one recently, haven't I? I didn't get too much out of the, in fact, expand all. To give you.
This is perfect. This is perfect. Scroll down a little bit. I just want to see the fleeting notes. Let me just read.
Oh God, I made jokes in there, sorry.
I'm reading the literature notes now. Let's go back on the browser.
Yep.
So basically, for people that are watching, I was looking through his fleeting notes, and I just want to see if the pattern is congruent with another permanent note. Let's go to system, because our worries. Let's go ahead and click on that. Now I saw his structure for his fleeting notes, and I just wanted to make sure that the abstraction process was going to be congruent and across the board. Let's go and expand out your fleeting notes. This one looks better already. And yeah, let me just take a look.
This one went deep, I think.
Yeah, no. And let's stop. Yeah, perfect. Let me just read. This one almost feels like you were more pinpointed in the point where you captured. And it's obvious because you're getting so much deeper. And I think you hit the nail on the head. It's like when you go broad, when you go with a paragraph or a chapter, there's less room to actually go deep into your fleeting note abstractions with your ideas. But when you go pinpointed just to that phrase, it's like automatically you can see it. I think I've historically been quite guilty of considering only the act of writing as writing. I mean, that obviously means that this is what resonated with me, and it's you. Let's scroll down a little bit. Questions are all in the fleeting note abstractions here. Maybe processing notes requires music. Like you're questioning yourself and you're answering yourself. Having the system lends itself to evolution and creating a sum greater than its parts. You have the question, you have the answer in your fleeting notes. So what it does is it sort of shows you the thought process that you went through when you stumble upon this note later. Let's keep going down, leaving me to work. Okay, let's scroll up to the top. And let's just take a look at the fleeting note summary real quick. This is perfect. Let's go and expand out the literature notes. You can obviously see the difference between the fleeting notes and the literature notes. It's demarcated. It's so clear, the difference between a fleeting note and a literature note. And even though the fleeting note summary, trusting in a system enables one to act more fearlessly, the problems you'd otherwise be having have already been addressed at a higher level of abstraction. That's the fleeting note summary. Let's read the literature note summary. By forming a contiguous system in which to write, we have a set of tasks we can attack to our full potential. It's the information that happened in the fleeting notes phase, provided the information, but it's not a one-to-one relationship. It's not a linear process like Simon was talking about. It's all information. And that information is informing what the summaries of the fleeting and literature notes are. And by forming a contiguous system in which to write, we have a set of tasks we can attack to our full potential. And it's excellent. You have the reference note right there. The permanent note, because our worries, again, the permanent note fits into where it fits into the Zettelkasten. Let's go back on the browser. I'm just looking for patterns, by the way. And if you can spot the patterns, then you can find out what's working and what's not working. Okay, now let's just take a look. Let's go to right click on permanent notes. Let's collapse all your top level. Yeah, collapse all. I just want to see all your top level bullet points. You have 3 top level bullet points: delayed gratification, cross-pollination, and system. Now, none of these, let me just correct me if I'm wrong, okay? None of those top level parent blocks were actually thought up beforehand before creating it. It's just the note, the abstractions from the notes, and the things that you wanted to talk about, Simon, just weren't being talked about yet. So you either had to add it to your conversation already going, or you had to create a top level parent block. Now, the thing is, cross-pollination almost feels too specific. Right.
I was thinking that about delayed gratification as well. Like it's going to be it's almost like you've already talked yourself into a bit of a corner, if you like.
But what if the best conversation with you is jumping halfway into the conversation so basically, if you start broad and general, it's going to take you longer through the nested sequence to get to the very specific. And Simon is actually saying, well, fuck all that. I don't like small talk. I want to go straight to the business. And straight to the business is saying, I want to know more about delayed gratification. I don't want to know where you're from, what your favorite sports are, or where you grew up. I want to know, what do you want in life? What's your purpose in life? You went straight to the point. So Simon's top level parent blocks are got the small talk out of the way. I want to know more about delayed gratification, cross-pollination, and systems. Correct me if I'm wrong. Okay.
Yeah.
Now,
yeah. I think that's a good.
Now let's go ahead and hit expand all now on your permanent notes. This is a great example, by the way. Okay. So now, obviously delayed gratification, that conversation hasn't took off yet. It doesn't mean that it's dead yet. You know, you're not going to know that until you start building it out and you can start seeing your patterns. But even now you have one linked reference back to delayed gratification.
Yeah.
So it's still alive, right? But if I look back at my Zettelkasten and there's a note that doesn't have any linked references to it, or it doesn't have any branches off of it, it usually means that's not interesting to me. And it tells me, my Zettelkasten's talking to me and it's telling me, dude, don't learn anything more about this crap. You're not interested in it. And the more you see other notes adding to other branches, you go, oh my God, I'm not really interested in this. Delayed gratification, cross-pollination, context, isolation, decoupling, synergy, cross-pollination, synergy, system, and routine. That's perfect. I would say, do you trust in your Zettelkasten?
I don't know yet. Probably not yet. I trust in the process. I think I'm going to trust it.
I think you need to wait for the system to kick in, because your inline linked references have 4 for system. And to me, what I'm picking up on the conversation that you have so far is that system is your biggest concern. It's the biggest thing you're thinking about. And that hasn't clicked in.
Yeah.
And once I see synergy or routine taking over the lead, that's going to show me that, okay, system isn't as important as routine, or system isn't as important as synergy or freedom or flow state or frictionless or, compound interest. One of those titles would take over. That's going to show me where you're at.
You've hit on something really, really interesting there. The non-fiction book I was reading before I started this, and I've kind of paused for now, was a book on systems thinking. So you're probably right there. Sort of,
it reflects, and which is great. I think it's just great. The reason I'm asking, by the way, if you trust in your system right now, is because I think you can start exploring what it looks like to have what Brother Spirit showed, but maybe even wait until you have that absolute trust, maybe 20 notes. Like Brother Spirit had 30 notes, right? That's a lot.
Yeah.
That's like enough to go, okay, I kind of remember where everything is, but I couldn't, if you asked me where to name them all, I wouldn't be able to do it. Right now, it's like you could close your eyes. You can name your top 3 top level parent blocks pretty easily. You can remember, systems pretty easily. So give it a little bit more time, maybe 20 to 30. But I'd like to circle back and to be able to show everyone else the of how this is sort of changed over time, and yeah. I think that's it. Fleeting notes, perfect. Literature notes, perfect. That leads into permanent notes, how they're structured. That's permanent, or that's perfect. Bringing over the relevant notes, you completely understand the system. Look, can you go to click your inline references for system real quick? The inline link references for system. So now you have context, which is on a completely different block. Decoupling and context are on the same branch, but they're actually lower. Or they're different points of that branch. Now, if you only had context, you wouldn't be able to find decoupling. And at this point in the process, it's bring over as many as you need to. Right.
Yeah, but I think that full branch, apart from the top level one, is linked. Isolation's the other one there. Yeah. And the thing is, you don't know, we're not limited to a 3x5 index card anymore. You don't have I only have space for two connected notes or 2 relevant notes. And you don't know when you might need to stumble upon system decoupling. Yeah. And
you might not know when you need to stumble upon system isolation. And even with it only gets unruly at 40. 20 is still pretty good. 20 basically means that you can go into that one topic and write literally anything about it. And I think that's the point, though. And as long as all those, like, how do those memory palaces work? It's like, you know what I mean? It's,
yeah.
If you have 40 inline linked references to one topic called system, right? What that means to me is that you're very familiar with this idea because you've linked to it that much. And to me, it's like those are the inroads of the places where I want to explore because I know that I know a lot about that. And so I'm not against bringing over as much as you need to. Yeah, I don't think there's anything else to say, but just keep your head down and keep going.
Yeah. Okay.
You know,
cool.
like, how do you feel?
Yeah, I think, I think I agree. As I apparently quite cockily put in the survey. Yeah, I think I understand it. You know, I didn't mean it to come across that way, but like some of it.
Right there, everyone.
Yeah.
Just so everyone can see.
What a dickhead, eh?
But you do.
Yeah.
And guess what? It's not that hard. Simple.
I think, and that's it for me. It's this, like, it was in Martha's coach's session where you were going through the goals and showing how this can lend itself to other things in different guises, that it kind of registered to me as a nice, simple data structure. And that was double hit home when I watched the Brother Spirit video as well. Like he's just extended a very simple data structure to be able to do a lot more for what he needs to do in that academic world. And I think there's something really, really strong and powerful to that. Like it's the power of the graph, really, isn't it? It's really nice.
Power of the block and having information at the block level. Are you an academic?
No, I'm a software engineer. So okay. Like, and anytime I'm holding mental models, I'm always relating it to software engineering things. I really liked when you referenced in one of your videos Rich Hickey's Simple Made Easy thing. I was like, that's this, isn't it? That's this. It's being able to expand out something really simple, but to create really, really, really powerful forms, if you like.
I had to know who he was. He's the one that created the language in which Rome is built and Athens is built. So it's like I had to know what that was about. You know, I had to do my due diligence and my research. So I would go to sleep listening to fucking Rich Hickey lectures, like who, and like just Clojure. What's the Clojure Con or whatever it's called? Like, yeah. And it's just like I would listen to this and I'm like, what am I doing? But it's like, no, I had to do my due diligence. And so if I can say one last thing, Simon, is I encourage you to be of service to people that are learning.
Yep.
Because I think you can get rid of the think and you can just go, I understand it all. You do. And you understand it all where you are. And as you keep growing, you understand that part and you understand that part. And I think there's a lot of people that have these sort of questions that I think if you were challenged to have to articulate, you would do it very eloquently. And watch back this video because you hit the nail on the head on every single answer. And even the ones that you haven't experienced yet, you're in the ballpark. You're in the range, you know? And I think that's because you understand it. And so I do challenge you to seek out those opportunities to be able to be of service to others because it's been most fulfilling for me.
Yeah.
And I feel like to get over the hump between 20 to 120, you need to have that because you're going to hit highs and lows. And that fulfillment of being able to be of service to others is going to get you over that whole crest. From my experience.
I definitely get that. And it's that power of elaboration that you were talking about earlier. You know, it also solidifies the understanding for yourself by being able to show other people, right?
Yeah. I mean, they always say like, you know, when you're mentoring somebody, it's not the person that you're mentoring doesn't get as much help as the person that's doing the mentoring. You know what I mean? Like the mentee doesn't get as much as the mentor because, like you said, elaboration. And so I challenge everyone. I challenge you. I challenge Carol. You know what I mean? People that have already started building this out, you know, that have a little bit of momentum already and are really grasping the concepts. I encourage you all to seek out those moments too, because sometimes people are a little hesitant to be forward with their misunderstandings or struggles. And so seek that out. And yeah, I'm proud of you, man. This looks phenomenal.
Oh, thank you.
And
I think on the forceful thing, like one of the things that makes me hesitate is that imposter syndrome. Like there's that I don't know what I'm talking about type things that there's, again, it's chicken and egg, sort of just forcing yourself to take that first step and go, well, have you thought about
really
this?
Think you don't know what you're talking about though?
Yeah.
Really?
Yeah.
You know that Rome's only been out for fucking 10 months? Sonke only wrote his book in 2017.
That surprised me. I didn't realize that until recently. How like I've heard his book referenced so many times over the last 2 years. I thought this must be like a tome that's been around 15, 20 years. It's remarkable.
Let me put it like this, okay? Yesterday, I realized that I was absolutely wrong about Project Zettelkasten's because of Brother Spirit, right? That doesn't take away from all the people that have been able to help up to this point. And as long as I keep an open mind, right, to accept new answers, then that 20% that I might have gotten wrong, I'll learn how to do it right moving forward. And it doesn't take away from the 80% that I did do right and I did help others with. So when imposter syndrome comes up, it's like, yeah, but if I'm wrong, I'm going to learn how to do it better. But there's so much more that I can give now that is good, that is solid. Yeah. And I feel the same, you know, I can confidently say that with you. It's like, yeah, sure. That 20% might not be all there yet, but you're figuring it out and you're open-minded. But the 80% is valuable.
Yeah. That's useful to hear because, I think there's a lot of truth to it.
I was wrong. I was completely wrong. Completely wrong. It's because I didn't know.
I think, watching the video, like as you said, it's not a world that you're explicitly in, right? The academic world. So, yeah. Like sorry.
I just think it's okay. My camera. Hold on. I just think it's a beautiful thing when I can just go, I'm going to keep focusing on the newer users because that happens to be my forte and onboarding them. And I'm going to allow the people that are pushing the frontiers to do that. And everything that it's almost like, it's so amazing because it's like what they discover, they bring it back to the community. And then I teach that to the community, you know? So it's like this infinite virtuous cycle of like, you know, everyone's getting fed, you know, and everyone's getting fed and everyone's getting fed. And it's just like that, to me, is the Rome cult, you know? And that's what separates this community with the other communities.
Yeah. No, I get that a lot.
And so I want to foster that. I really do. So, Is there anything else that's sort of on your mind that you want to talk about? Because I think you just got to do the work now.
I think I've got a bunch of unknowns around Project Zettelkasten's, and it's more. It's not necessarily that as a thing. It's about short-lived pieces of work with lots of interlocking information, sort of whether they're firewalled away from your main Zettelkasten or whether they're short-lived. And I'm guessing it's something that it's an evolving concept in this space because we don't know what works yet. But I'm thinking things for work, you know, like there's lots of evolving conversations at work, like, is this an appropriate data structure for that, or is it everything looks like a hammer type situation?
Explain to me a little bit more about what these thoughts are, these interlocking thoughts.
So
where do they come from?
So the context might be at work where, like, I work for a big company with lots of moving pieces, lots of variables coming in that we need to manage, lots of problems to manage. So there's lots of principles at play that they don't lend them, like, they're contextual to our business, the way everything works together. But I see this as a nice way of thinking of generating project outputs, things like what we call requests for comments, ideas, sort of going into the principles behind ideas and sort of drawing out problems with them and really, really locking them down. Like, this feels like a good way of generating those things. But at the same time, I don't, they're short-lived enough and also very contextual to my place of work that I wouldn't necessarily want them in my main graph, if you like. But then there are places where it would benefit from, you know, say the graph I've got there. Oh, this is where cross-pollination comes in. You know, it might be nice to bring a concept like that. It's like, do I deliberately firewall? Like, how permanent is the Zettelkasten? And if at some point I wanted to prune it and go, actually, this was all related to this piece of work, I can safely delete it now. Is that okay? Like, I don't know. I have a feeling a lot of the answers are, it kind of depends, and we need to see. But yeah, any thoughts?
So what I hear you saying is, how do you know what the future is going to look like in regards to how this builds out? And how can I be certain that this is the way?
Yeah, so I don't expect.
I
don't expect you to be certain or anything like that. It's yeah, like, I think as you just said, a lot of this is going to be us trying things out and seeing what works, right?
I think everything changes though once you can trust in this thing and you can see your reflection back at you.
Mm-hmm.
Because then it's, how do you explain that? You can't. There's no way I can explain that. There's no way that I can explain what it feels like to see your notes that you wrote in your own words looking back at you. And like, what I mean by looking back at you, like, I remember writing that 2 months ago and I completely forgot about that. But after reading it again, I'm blown away to see where I am today compared to where I was 2 months ago, and to see how that note is connected to every other note in my Zettelkasten. And even saying that does not encapsulate what that feels like when it's in your own words. There's nothing that compares to that, except maybe teaching and guiding others to get to that point too. That's probably the only thing that is more fulfilling. And what I heard you say with the question that you asked of, like, well, where does it fit? What's going to happen here? You know, what if I need to prune this out? And I go, oh, you have no idea. You know, it's like, you look back at all the memories that you've ever had, and it's like, yeah, I'm sure some of it we wish we didn't happen, but guess what? It's formed who we are.
Yeah.
And it's the same thing where it's like, would you go in there and prune your brain and go, I don't want that memory anymore? You know, sure, I'm sure there's certain things, like I've heard of truly malevolent things happen to people. Yet at the same time, I've also seen those malevolent things that have happened, like pure evil happen to them. I've seen that become the cornerstone in which they've become highly influential successful people because of the pain. And it's like, would you want to prune that away? It's like, I don't know. And then it's like, it's your notes as well. And the scary thing is, if anything, it's scary to even think about this, because the minute that you can see your notes in front of you, you can't bullshit that. And you're going to see, oh my God, I really don't know as much as I thought I did. And that's terrifying. But it's also relieving in a way that's, now I don't have to make a decision on where something lives. And I don't have to worry about where it goes. How do I capture it? How do I process it? What do I do after I process it? How do I connect it so I don't forget it? Like, I could literally close my eyes and direct you exactly where to go in my personal graph to create a new to process a new fleeting note. Right? I can literally close my eyes and tell you exactly how I capture a fleeting note, whether it's YouTube, a podcast, a video, or just my thoughts or an article, right? I can close this mise en place, by the way. I can literally tell you, like, okay, let's walk through this process. Okay, this goes here, this goes here, this goes here. You can literally pull me out at any point of this process of processing a fleeting note into literature note, into permanent note, into relevant notes. You could pull me out of any part of that process, right? Have every notification go off at the same time, completely change my context and wait 30 minutes. I can still come back and go, I know exactly where I need to be. Right now, I'm actually crystallizing the permanent note after I'm reading through the fleeting note and literature note summaries. Or, okay, you pull me back in. It's like, oh, I know exactly where I'm at. I'm actually going through my fourth pass of my literature notes, and I'm about to summarize on the literature note top block. Or you pull me back, it's like, oh, I know exactly where I'm at. All I'm doing is dragging over all my relevant notes. And to have trust in that simple, lightweight system means the most important thing for me. What it means to me is that I don't have to make a decision on that anymore.
Yeah.
And also, that frees up this guy to think about more things that are important. Yeah. And this is why people are so excited.
Yeah. And then, no, I get that completely, actually. Yeah, the muscle memory, like every decision you make is a
friction.
Yeah, it's friction. It gets in the way of this, and also the thing about each piece of writing being a residue of where you were at that point in time. That's really nice as well. Like I recently came across some old live journal posts I wrote 20 years ago, and it was horrible to read, but being able to see that growth that's happened in that 20 years, that's really nice to reflect on. I instantly archived all of them, mind you, because that was all online. Yeah. But like just being able to self-reflect, I think there's something massively powerful there.
Yeah. And I just think about, like, if my computer's acting up, whatever, it's overheating, it is what it is, right? And I just think, hold on, let me just plug this back in. Saying Zoom is overheating, the world is over. I'm gonna go and close Safari, maybe that'll help.
I have the same app on my phone, and it does exactly the same at least once or twice a day.
I'm about to go buy a freaking a real DSLR camera.
Yeah.
But let me go to camera going so I can see you. Oh, that's why it's converting the other video. Okay, there we go. Can you see me? Can you say something? I can't hear you. Stop. Hold on. Where's the video? Can you hear me now? Can you say something?
Yeah, I can hear you. I think you can't hear me. Oh,
there we go. Okay, yes. If we can spend less time thinking about where our notes go and more time thinking about the actual complexities of this world, the ripple effect from that is monumental. And even though it's a small group of people that is doing this right now, it's just like anything. Once you hit a critical mass of dominoes and dominoes and dominoes and dominoes, the power from that is world changing. And I think we need to remember that we are at the forefront of something. And that's kind of heavy, man. It only takes 100, 200 people to change the world, you know? And if we go, dude, let's think better. Let's solve the complex problems of this world. All right. My hippie side's coming out. Change the world! Save the world! You know? But in essence, dude, I'm happy. I'm happy where everything is with you, man. And I'd like to check back probably in 2 or 3 weeks, see how things are going, see how much has changed, and follow that progress for others to watch as well. Okay.
I'll do exactly that. I want to keep capturing, keep processing, start trying to generate outputs when I get towards that maybe 20, 30 notes mark. I don't know.
And how is your capturing process?
It's a bit messy at the minute. I do a lot through podcasts and stuff like that, and my initial notes aren't good from that. And I do a lot of reading on my phone, which is good. I love that. It's just the act of taking notes when I'm on my phone isn't very good. The Kindle app's not very good for it. It takes you out of the context of the page when you do it. I'm trying voice to do it at the minute, but I'm getting over that self-conscious, I'm talking to my phone type thing. Like, I'll get over that. And I think I want to look at that. The best stuff I do is when I'm actually deliberately consuming media, when I'm reading articles at my computer, when I'm watching YouTube at my computer. I'm able to process things a lot better. But at the same time, a lot of the really high value stuff I'm consuming in podcasts, audiobooks, books on my phone, that's stuff where I haven't got it quite so well down. So yeah, that's my most immediate thing to sort of iterate on, I think.
Well, it's working around everyone's idiosyncrasies. And it's just like, the thought that came to my mind was, what if you can't really save the good stuff because you don't know what the good stuff is going to be until it hits you.
Yeah.
But getting that as frictionless as possible is super important.
Yeah. I'm definitely getting that as well. Like this, it's annoying. A lot of the really good podcasts I'm getting are sort of on runs where it's really hard to sort of capture a note when you're running amongst traffic and stuff like that. So sometimes I'm just going on the Drafts app and saying, re-listen to this thing, so you can actually have that fleeting thought, although it's probably not going to be the same thing because your mind doesn't wander in the same way.
I don't think it's the same thing. And I can say that because I know what it feels like to have a little bit of friction compared to having frictionless.
Yeah.
And the depth that I'm able to go in the first pass fleeting note capture is different when it's frictionless, because I can pinpoint exactly what it is about this thing that made me go, aha. If that makes sense.
Yeah.
And you know what works best for me is realizing that sometimes I go through seasons of capturing and go through seasons of processing. And
okay.
the seasons of capturing, if I do it well enough and I capture the exact aha moment in Amber, like writing for 2 to 5 minutes or voice memo capturing it for 2 to 5 minutes, what happens is I can come back to this 2 months later and not lose the juice of what that aha was. And how I know the depth. And how I know if I capture that depth is I either say, what the fuck? This is amazing. Oh my God. Something along those lines. That's like litmus test to saying, I captured it. I captured it enough where if I came back to this 2 months later, I would understand it. And I just think that's a very effective way for me personally, because sometimes I go through these seasons where it's like, I just like consuming information. And there's other times where it's just like, don't talk to me, I'm processing. Bah, 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 bah. And
How
so
long do
I'm
those?
just like, no, I'm not doing it. Yeah.
How long do those seasons last, if you like? Like how? Like are we talking days, weeks, months?
Well, I'm going like I had a time where I was on a train ride for about a week and a half, and all I did was capture. And I've still got captures from that train ride. I think it was June of last year, right? When I go on road trips, it's the same thing. I'm about to go on a road trip after RBC is done. I'm just gonna be on the road for two weeks.
Yeah.
And I just have everything set up on my phone where I do Yo Siri, Siri shortcut, goes to Otter, adds it all up, has a virtual assistant that adds it back to my shared graph or my personal graph. It's all frictionless, but it's the same idea, So basically, I'll listen to audiobooks and lectures the entire drive, and the entire drive, all I'm thinking about is capture, 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 capture. And so basically, that's how I refuel. So every like quarter or so, I just go on a drive or a ride, or I go on a vacation or something. And I guess that's the smart thing to do too. It's like, it's not always gas pedal on the gas pedal to the metal. It's like, no, you need these times of where you can just take in information. And there's other times where it's just like, I'm driving to the office, and it's like, dude, this is a great idea. I'm listening to like, a YouTube thing. It's like, oh, this is a great idea. And so it's all of it at the same time. And
I was going to ask, like, how about captures where you're not even expecting to capture? So I'm thinking I might be watching a film, and in that film there's like a piece of dialogue that really, really hits me and solidifies something that has got me in another context altogether. Do you have anything for that, or is that just a case of, oh fuck it, stop everything, I need to get that written down?
Of course I have something for that.
Yeah.
I say, yo Siri, capture this thought. Literally, it'll open up Otter. It'll have the time and date stamp as the title. It's going to lead to the Otter recording folder for captured Twitter.
Yeah.
And that's pulled in. Of course I do. Why? Because I thought about it and I wrestled with it, and I said, I have a great idea, but I don't have a way to capture it. Let me figure it out.
There's something in that Siri Otter thing. I think I'm going to have to look into that. Yeah, because I'm playing with Otter at the minute, but I don't do anywhere near enough with Siri, and I should. I've got the watch and everything.
And I look at it like, this is what I realized. I was listening to Professor Weil talk about Dostoevsky, right? Fyodor Dostoevsky wrote Crime and Punishment, The Brothers Karamazov, Notes from Underground, and he had a deadline to write an article or a manuscript, and his editor was like, hire a scribe, right? Someone that you were going to verbalize this manuscript and have her type it up. And he ended up marrying her. You know what I mean? And it's just, listen, that's 1860s. They had voice memo recording in 1860s. Okay, we're in 2021. There's something very powerful about being able to just quickly capture your thoughts as frictionlessly as possible. Now, don't get me wrong. Some people are going to be they much prefer capturing it with their fingers or writing it down. Whatever works the best for you. Yeah. But what I've realized is that if I can capture about 2 to 5 minutes worth of my thoughts, as soon as it's happening, I can get it all without losing the context. But everyone's workflow is going to be different.
Yeah, I think that's what I need to deliberately aim for, because a lot of it is like, oh, there was that thing. Oh, what was it? Oh well, next time, it's not always the next one.
What happens is if we don't capture that, we resort back to what we're comfortable with, which is, let's read the paragraph, let's read the sentence above it, let's read the sentence below it, let's highlight the paragraph, and we're gonna we're good detectives. Listen, this is how the brain works. We're gonna, the aha was here, but we're gonna go above it and below it and sort of dust for fingerprints over here and put it all together. And it kind of reminds me of this. But just remember that when we do that, it's because we missed the ephemeral, fast-moving, fleeting thought.
Yeah, we're essentially summarizing at that point. We're not shooting right into what made us highlight that in the first place.
Yeah. What stood out, what resonated, what was like that missing thing that we were needed. And this is why it's like, how I put it is, if you miss this fleeting note that's ephemeral, it's literally watching your life pass you by. And I hate putting it like that because it hurts. But if I really think about that, that's literally what my life is made up of. It's these aha moments that lead me to the next aha moment. What is an aha? It's insight. It's an opportunity. It's an opportunity to change my life if I capture it. And if I don't, I get a broad, shallow summarization of highlights instead of pinpointed exactly why this resonated with me. Deep. So, yeah, let's end it there. That's like a positive note. And I'm proud of you, man. Let's circle back.
Thank you.
Yeah, of course, man. And be a service where you can. Let's circle back probably 2 weeks from now when I come back, and I want to see the progress of 25, 35 notes where you're at. I have a feeling you'll be up there easily.
Cool. Yeah, I'm all for this. Yeah, I'm gonna dive headfirst into the post RBC3 group and sort of get stuck in.
Yes. Simon, appreciate it.
Thank you. Thanks for your time. It's been brilliant.
Awesome, man.
See you later.
Bye, brother.